The Vermont Catamounts are atop the America East at 9-1 in the league. They're 19-5 overall, and their head coach is one of the fastest ever to 100 conference wins, joining the likes of Mark Few, Bill Self, John Chaney, and Adolph Rupp. Joining us is Vermont Catamounts head coach John Becker. John, how you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, DA. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So far, so good.
17-5 start for the third straight season, only the sixth time in school history, which is huge. And you guys right now, 19-5 rather, are 10-2 at home. And as I mentioned, you have that select company you're around and you're with. Is it weird to look at yourself with some of the legendary names in college basketball history?
Yeah, it's really amazing, and our SID did a great job at digging that stat up. I had no idea, and it's been pretty cool to be on that list for sure.
Out of those guys, Mark Few, Adolph Rupp, John Chaney, Bill Self, did you study any of their techniques, their styles, their schemes? Did you have any connection to them? Have you ever picked up anything coaching-wise from any of those guys?
Well, I mean, we played Kansas this year, so obviously Bill Self has been one of the best in the business for a while now, and certainly always been a fan of his program. And then Mark Few, I mean, what he's been able to do at Gonzaga in a mid-major league, turning them into a perennial top 10 team, is certainly a blueprint that I've looked at and to try to replicate. I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but certainly I think all of us mid-major teams aspire to be able to do what they've done.
What elements can you take out of what Mark Few has done at Gonzaga? What do you try to replicate?
Well, I just think it's interesting because Burlington and Spokane, Washington are similar type of locations, so to speak, and the conferences have some similarities. And then it's just how do you continue to push the thing forward? What do you need? We're getting a new arena here at Vermont, so I think that's going to be a huge step for us to continue to push this thing forward. And then just how do you start to get the level players that they've got? And Dan Dickow was a guy that they got early, and Adam Morrison and guys like that, and now turned into a team that has a few NBA guys every year. And so how do you acquire the talent you need to get to the level they're at? So some of those answers are hard to come by, and some of it's luck. And obviously he's a tremendous coach and has had a great staff, and guys have gone on to do well as head coaches themselves. So there's a lot to it, and there's no clear path or right or wrong answer. But I think with the arena coming here, I think that's the next huge step for us, and we're looking forward to opening that arena in a couple of years.
Vermont head coach John Becker is our guest this morning on the show. You've got three brothers on the roster from Evansville, Indiana: Ernie Duncan, Everett Duncan, and Robin Duncan. If I'm not mistaken, all three of these guys started in one game earlier this season. How the hell did you call out who needed to be what where when there's three different Duncans on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool thing, and I was just watching a clip that someone put out that sent to me. It was a Duncan to Duncan to Duncan for three, and they're just awesome kids, and they fit together so well, and obviously have played so much basketball together that it's been pretty easy to manage those guys. They kind of just fit together, playing style, and Ernie Duncan, the oldest brother, who's having a great year for us, kind of keeps them in line and keeps them, coaches them, so to speak, a little bit. And so they've been fantastic to coach, and they're all three are really good players and have been a big part of our success.
You and I have a mutual friend in Chris Wojcik, who was the longtime one of the voices of UVM basketball, and then it moved on to the NHL. And I was up in Burlington for his wedding 2 summers ago, and I've spent some time in Burlington because he was up there, but boy, I got to spend a weekend in Burlington and on Lake Champlain, and in that country, it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's breathtakingly beautiful. Yeah. And you got Ben & Jerry's up there, which is always a win. So what is the best Ben & Jerry's flavor? I'm sure you've tasted all of them.
Oh, geez, that's really difficult. You know, I'm a big fan of the fish food. I like that one, but they're all good, and it's definitely a nice part of our recruiting visits to stop into the original Ben and Jerry's and show the kids and their parents some of the best parts of Vermont for sure. So, ironic, I was invited to that wedding too. I was supposed to go, and I put the wrong weekend in my calendar, so I was on the road recruiting, and I completely spaced it. In fact, you reminded me. I may still owe them a gift, so I better get them something.
Yeah, get on that after the season. I drank enough Magic Hat for both of us, though, so don't worry about
there
that.
You go.
I'll tell you this, though. It is so beautiful in Vermont, and you have Lake Champlain there, and you can boat and do everything, and it's just the mountains are behind it. I know you're a guy that goes out of the boat, and I guess it's Indian Bay where you guys go out, right? So what's the day?
Yeah.
What's the day look like on the boat in Lake Champlain and Indian Bay?
I don't know if I can say that on these airwaves, but yeah, Wednesday night's boys' night. We head over to the lake, a few boats over to Indian Bay, and a couple of the guys bring their guitars, and we sit around and have some adult beverages and some bad food and enjoy the night. And it's absolutely beautiful and one of the best parts of summer for sure.
It really is. What an awesome place to be able to work and to play. And so what's the bad food order? Is it a cheeseburger? Is it a steak? What do we got?
It's a lot of chicken wings and low grade hamburgers for sure. So and French fries, yeah. So it's good. It's good. You don't feel great the next day, but it's certainly good on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's going down smooth as it's going down. Yeah. Vermont Catamounts head coach John Becker is our guest this morning on the show. You guys reside in what could be a one-bid league that's always a lot of pressure on the best team in the league. What does that feel like going to conference tournament time?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like you said, we've gotten off to another great start here, and there's a lot of positives, and had another great non-conference and beat a bunch of Atlantic 10 teams and a lot of good stuff. But we know as well as it's going, and it's going to come down to 3 days in March. And so, fortunately, I've been in that situation enough, but it's always tricky to manage that kind of one and done pressure. At home is obviously a huge advantage if you can get those home games, but then when you get to if you're fortunate enough to get to the championship game, that's, you're so close to your goal and all the work you put in for the year. And as a higher seed, there's additional pressure on you and expectations to win that game. As the lower seed, sometimes it's an advantage because there's less pressure on you. You can kind of just let it go. And so just figuring out that dynamic and how to help the players be as calm and confident as possible, but it's really hard to do. So, we know that that's what we signed up for here at this level, and so it is what it is, and hopefully we get another opportunity to feel that pressure.
You can check out the rest of UVM's regular season on ESPN Plus or ESPN3. Also, their game at UMBC, the darlings of last year's March Madness, is going to be on ESPNU Thursday, February the 21st. And, of course, the America East Tournament coming up after that. John Becker, head coach of the Vermont Catamounts, joining us this morning on the show. Coach, it's probably a Bed Bath & Beyond situation for you for Chris's registry. I'll send that to you. And best of luck as we head down the rest of this way. And hopefully we'll talk to you in March again, man.
Thanks so much for having me on, DA. I really appreciate it.
You got it. John Becker joining us this morning here on the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio.